The sunlight gently penetrated through the leaves of the trees, creating a golden mosaic on the village floor. It was a sunny and peaceful morning, typical of my beloved village, where everyone knew my name, Li Wei. As I walked along the path leading to the central square, I felt the warmth of generosity pulsing in my heart. In my hands, I carried baskets full of food, fresh fruits, and grains that I had acquired from the local market. This was not just a routine, it was a mission I undertook with love and dedication. "Hello, Li Wei," exclaimed Chen, my young friend, as he saw me approaching. His smile lit up his face, reflecting the joy I always felt when seeing others happy. Chen was a dreamer, someone whose hope and enthusiasm for life were contagious. "Good morning, Chen," I replied, smiling back. "Are you ready to help today?" "Always. I can't imagine a better day than this to do good," he said, bouncing alongside me. The villagers were already gathering in the square, and the children were playing in the background, laughing and running. It was comforting to see the community united, and my intention was to contribute to that happiness. As soon as I arrived, I was welcomed with warm smiles and grateful looks. "Li Wei, you are a true angel," said Mrs. Liu, an elderly woman who always seemed to need help. Her gaze was sincere, and her words warmed my heart. "I only share what I can, Mrs. Liu. A man's wealth lies in his ability to help," I replied as I placed a basket beside her. I continued passing the baskets to others, each one more grateful than the last. This was a cycle of giving that I deeply valued. With every smile I received, I felt my small fortune multiply in joy. "Look, Li Wei!" Chen pointed to a group of children whose faces were dirty and smeared with ice cream, dancing around a dog. "They are so happy, and that is all that matters, my friend," I replied, giving him a light pat on the back. "The true wealth lies in the happiness we can bring to others." The day went on with a feeling of camaraderie and gratitude. However, as the sun began to set, a shadow of unease emerged when a mysterious traveler approached me. He wore simple clothes and had a deep gaze, as if he carried the weight of many experiences. "Li Wei," he began, his voice deep and laden with meaning, "I have heard of your generosity, but allow me to warn you, wealth is a fragile thing. It can disappear like mist at dawn." I stared at him, intrigued. His warning seemed disproportionate to what I had experienced. "I appreciate the warning, traveler, but I trust that my kindness and generosity will protect me. What I have is always returned in the form of love and gratitude." He shook his head, his penetrating eyes fixed on mine. "Yes, but remember, life is made of cycles. The wealth you possess can turn into misery if you are not attentive. I believe that true wealth lies in how we treat others," I replied, trying to maintain faith in my convictions. The traveler smiled slightly, but there was sadness in his gaze. "Each has their own truth, Li Wei. Just don't forget, storms come without warning." Those words echoed in my mind, but I brushed them aside, convinced that my generosity was a powerful shield. I thanked the traveler and returned home, still reflecting on his words, but with a light heart. That night, as I prepared to sleep, I couldn't ignore the feeling that something was about to change. The wind began to blow, and clouds gathered in the sky, obscuring the light of the moon. I remembered the traveler and his warnings, but soon convinced myself that everything would be fine. The village was a safe place, and I had done enough to deserve that protection. However, as I rested, the sky began to roar. A powerful thunder echoed and raindrops started to beat fiercely against the roof. I woke up, my heart racing, and went to the window. What I saw left me paralyzed. The storm raging over the village was unlike anything I had ever witnessed. The trees bent under the force of the wind, and the sound of the rain was deafening. "Li Wei!" a voice shouted from outside. It was Chen, who had run to my house. The storm is devastating everything. We need to help others. Without thinking twice, I quickly dressed and ran outside, where the force of nature seemed intent on swallowing everything around me. Chen and I joined other villagers, trying to save what we could. The houses trembled and panic spread like wildfire. "Quick, help me hold that board!" I shouted to Chen, but he was already struggling against the wind, trying to keep a wooden structure in place. The storm seemed never ending. The sky grew darker and the water rose rapidly. I looked around, realizing that many of my neighbors were in trouble. Fear intensified as houses began to collapse. I felt like the world around me was fading away. When the storm finally began to calm, reality hit like a cruel blow. The village that had once been full of life was now in ruins. I looked at my house, one of the most affected. The roof had collapsed, and my belongings were scattered, destroyed. A knot formed in my throat. Tears began to slide down my face. "Li Wei," Chen approached, his eyes also filled with sadness. "What will we do now?" I don't know," I managed to murmur, pain and desolation consuming me. As I looked at the destruction, the truth of the mysterious traveler's words echoed in my mind. I had lost everything I had. My heart was wounded, and the generosity I had always considered a strength now seemed like a weakness in the face of nature's fury. With tears in my eyes, I realized that my life had changed forever. The pursuit of wealth, of a legacy of kindness, now mingled with uncertainty and pain. Everything I believed to be solid and secure had crumbled, and I felt lost in a darkness I had never known before. The cave was an unexpected refuge. As I entered, the echo of my own breath sounded like a lament, a sad melody resonating against the cold stone walls. The space was small and dark, but there was a corner where the moonlight filtered softly, creating a beam that illuminated the sand-covered floor. I sat down there, leaning against the wall, as the reality of my situation crashed down on me like an avalanche. I had lost everything. The storm had not only destroyed my home, but also dismantled the life I knew. I remembered the laughter of the villagers when I distributed food, the satisfaction I felt in seeing the joy on their faces. Now what was left of me? A man without a home, without riches, without a purpose that seemed meaningful. The generosity that once defined me now felt like a distant, almost unreal memory. Who am I without what I had? I murmured to myself, my voice trembling in the cave's solitude. Thoughts assailed me, a whirlwind of doubts and fears. What should I do now? How could I rebuild? Looking at the shadows dancing on the wall, I felt a profound anguish. Despair was like a biting cold, and each beat of my heart seemed to echo into an endless void. As I reflected, an unexpected figure appeared at the entrance of the cave. It was an elderly woman with a serene presence that contrasted with the storm of emotions inside me. Her hair was white as snow, and her face was marked by wrinkles that told stories of a life lived with purpose. She looked at me with eyes that seemed to pierce my soul. "You look lost, young man," she said in a soft but firm voice. "Come in. Don't stay in the darkness." I hesitated, but something in her voice made me want to trust her. I got up and approached her. "I lost everything, my home, my fortune. I don't know what to do now." She nodded, understanding the depth of my pain. Sometimes losing everything is the first step to finding what truly matters. Allow yourself to feel that pain, but don't let it consume you. I sat down again, this time in front of her. "How do you know what I feel? Who are you?" "My name is May," she said as she took a piece of bread from her bag. "And I am just a traveler who has found a home here in the mountains. Sometimes life takes us to strange places, but it's in those places that we find the deepest truths." I accepted the bread she offered, feeling its simple and welcoming aroma. "Thank you, May. I don't know if I deserve this. My generosity didn't protect me from what happened. Generosity is a gift, but not armor, May replied, looking directly into my eyes. Life is impermanent, Li Wei. Everything we have can be taken in an instant. What you should seek now is inner peace, not external possessions. Inner peace? How can I find that when I'm surrounded by so much pain? I asked, bitterness creeping into my voice. Start by accepting your pain. It's a part of you now, but don't let it define who you are. The true self resides beyond external circumstances. You have helped so many, haven't you? Think of what you have learned along the way. Her words began to penetrate my mind. I had helped many, but now I felt like a burden. May saw my conflict and continued. The true wealth is not in possessions, but in the compassion you have for others and for yourself. What you did before was not in search of rewards, but of love and connection. Hearing her words, something began to ignite within me. But how can I be useful now? I have nothing to offer. You still have your wisdom, your life experience. Use that. True help comes from the heart, not the wallet. In your pain, you will find the strength to help others who may also be suffering. But what if I don't know how? I felt like a lost child in the dark, searching for a way out. You will learn. Every step you take toward understanding yourself is a step toward healing. Share your stories, your experiences. You can be the light in the darkness for others. Listening to May, I realized that I was not just lost, I also had the capacity to help others find their way. A new determination began to form within me. And what if I fail? What if I can't help anyone? Don't worry about failure. Every attempt is an opportunity to learn. What matters is the love you put into your actions. And remember, even the smallest light can illuminate the deepest darkness. You are wise, May, I said, admiring her calmness and clarity. How do you manage to see all of this? Because I have been lost too. Life has taught me that in every loss, there is a chance for rebirth. I have learned to listen to the pain of others and to find beauty even in the most difficult situations. Those words resonated deeply within me. The pain I felt was not just mine. It was a universal experience. I began to understand that by sharing my story, I could not only heal myself, but also inspire others to find their own light. Thank you for listening to me, May. I feel like I'm starting to see a path ahead, I said now, with a slight smile on my lips. Remember, Li Wei, the journey is long, but every step counts. When you feel ready, step out of here and share what you have learned, and know that I will always be here in your memory as a reminder that you are not alone. With those words, May stood up and began to walk away. I watched her, feeling a mix of gratitude and sadness as I saw her leave. I knew she had given me more than food. She had offered me a new perspective on life. As the moonlight continued to shine through the cave entrance, I realized there was still a path ahead. The true wealth was not the fortune I had lost, but the wisdom I was beginning to find. And through the pain, there was an opportunity for rebirth, not just for me, but for all those I could touch along the way. With this new determination pulsing in my heart, I knew my journey was just beginning. The sun began to set, painting the sky orange and pink. I sat at the cave entrance, reflecting on May's wise words. The teaching about the impermanence of things echoed in my mind like a soft yet unsettling melody. I'd lost everything, but somehow I felt I had gained something greater. What was once an unbearable weight was now transforming into a new purpose. The idea of helping others who had also suffered from the storm began to bloom in my heart. I stood up with a firm decision. I needed to act. I looked around and saw the village, so familiar, but now marked by the scars of the storm. The destroyed houses and the sad faces of the villagers motivated me to seek ways to rebuild our community. With the wisdom May had taught me, I knew I could find a way. The next day, after a simple breakfast, I managed to prepare with the few supplies I still had. I went to the village. The air was fresh, and the scent of damp earth still lingered in the atmosphere. When I arrived at the village center, I saw Chen, my dear friend, talking with some villagers. His face brightened when he saw me. "Li Wei, it's good to see you on your feet again. How are you?" Chen asked, concern evident in his tone. "I'm well, Chen. In fact, I'm determined to help all of us rise again. We need to join forces and rebuild the houses destroyed by the storm," I replied with enthusiasm. "You're right. But how will we do that?" "We have no resources," Chen said, shaking his head in discouragement. "We don't need much. What we need is unity and willpower. We can organize ourselves, divide tasks, and help each other. Remember what May taught me. True wealth lies in solidarity," I said, feeling the determination grow within me. Chen looked around, observing the sad and tired faces of the villagers. He seemed to reflect on my words. "You're right. If everyone comes together, we can do this. Let's call everyone for a meeting," he said, now with a spark of hope in his eyes. So we began gathering the villagers. With Chen's help, I invited everyone to meet in the village square. The atmosphere was tense, but there was an expectation in the air. When everyone settled down, I began to speak. "Friends, I know we have all been affected by the storm. Our houses have been destroyed, and many of us have lost everything. But together, we can face this adversity. I believe that if we unite our efforts, we can rebuild our homes and our lives," I declared, feeling the emotion take hold of me. A murmur of approval began to spread through the crowd. An old villager, known for his wisdom, raised his voice. "Li Wei, you have always been a generous man. What do you propose?" "I propose that we divide into groups. Each group can focus on one part of the village. We can help each other, share tools and materials, and most importantly, our strength and hope," I replied, feeling solidarity spreading. "I'm in!" exclaimed a woman with a determined look. Others began to speak up, agreeing and offering their skills. When the meeting ended, there was a new feeling in the air. People began to perk up, and the idea of rebuilding the village seemed increasingly possible. Chen approached me, smiling broadly. "You made this happen, Li Wei. Your determination inspired all of us. Now let's get to work," he said. The following days were intense. The village began to fill with life again, with laughter and animated conversations among the villagers. We organized work groups. Some took charge of gathering materials, while others focused on construction. I was responsible for coordinating activities, ensuring everyone knew their role. The work was hard, but the hours passed quickly, and the sense of community was palpable. One day, while we were working on a house for a family that had lost everything, a young woman named Lin approached me. "Li Wei, do you really think we can rebuild all of this?" she asked, with a look of uncertainty. "Absolutely, Lin. Every little action counts. And most importantly, we are in this together. Your strength and determination are essential too. Remember, the true wealth we are creating here is unity," I replied, trying to convey the hope that was in my heart. She smiled faintly, and in that moment, I realized how each of us was transforming. The difficulties were shaping us in a new way, and at the same time, we were coming together like never before. Days turned into weeks, and the houses began to take shape again. Life in the village was rising again, and hope was reborn in every corner. It was as if the storm had brought not only destruction, but a new opportunity to rebuild not just the physical structures, but also the bonds that united us. One morning, while having tea during a break, Chen approached me with a sparkle in his eyes. "Li Wei, did you see how happy people are? The hard work is paying off. I never thought we could come together like this," he said, almost in a whisper, as if fearing to break the magic of the moment. "It's true, Chen, and it makes me realize that by helping others, we find a purpose." Their smiles are the true wealth I was looking for, I replied, reflecting on my journey. I think we're learning a valuable lesson here. It's not just about rebuilding houses, but about rebuilding lives. And you, my friend, are the reason all of this is happening, Chen said, placing his hand on my shoulder. Those words resonated within me. With each passing day, I realized that the joy I had lost wasn't in material things, but in the connections we were forming. I looked around and saw the villagers working together, laughing and sharing stories. Life was blooming again, and the hope that once seemed distant was now right in front of us. In that moment, I understood that true wealth wasn't something I could lose or gain. It had always been present within me, and was now manifesting in the unity of our village. By helping each other, we were rediscovering the essence of life. And no matter how challenging the journey was, I knew that together we could overcome any storm. The sun was already high when, during one of the reconstruction days in the village, I came across a young boy named Xiao. He was sitting on a stone, a pen in hand, scribbling on a piece of paper that looked like it had seen better days. The expression of concentration on his face was almost palpable, as if he were trying to capture a glimpse of the beauty surrounding him in each stroke. Curious, I approached and asked, "What are you creating, young artist?" He looked up, surprised, but soon smiled, as if my presence had brought a bit of light to his day. "I'm trying to draw the mountain in the distance, but I can't capture all of its greatness," he replied, a bit disappointed. I sat down beside him, admiring his effort. The mountain he was trying to portray stood tall, covered in green trees and shrouded in a gentle mist. Then I remembered how I had been guided by the beauty of nature in search of purpose myself. The beauty of the mountain is immense, and perhaps you will never be able to reproduce it exactly as it is, I said, trying to encourage him. But what matters is your interpretation, the emotion you put into your drawing. The true essence of art lies in what it makes you feel. Zhao looked at me with a look of doubt, but also of hope. It was as if he were seeking a sign, a light to guide him on his creative journey. "I just wish people could see what I see," he confessed, a sparkle in his eyes. "I want them to feel the same emotion I feel when I look at that mountain." "And you can," I exclaimed, excited. "Never underestimate the power of your vision. Art is a means of communication. When you express your truth through painting, others can connect with it in ways you never imagined." He smiled, a bit more confident. "Do you really think I can do this?" "Absolutely. Never let the fear of failure stop you from pursuing your dream. The world needs your art, your vision. Don't worry about being perfect, just be sincere," I replied, remembering what May had taught me about authenticity and the search for inner truth. After chatting a bit more, I said goodbye to Xiao, but not before asking him to show me his creations whenever he wanted. As I left, I couldn't help but think about how life guides us to meaningful encounters and how I myself needed a purpose in my journey. In the days that followed, the village began to rise again, and I felt increasingly connected to it and its inhabitants. Each day was a new opportunity to learn and grow. I began to meditate daily, seeking a deeper understanding of myself and what I truly valued in life. It was a moment of reflection, where I tried to comprehend the lessons that challenges had taught me. One morning, while meditating under a large oak tree, I was interrupted by a familiar presence. It was May, the wise elder who had taken me in during a moment of despair. She approached with a warm smile, and my heart filled with gratitude. "Li Wei, my dear, I see you are blossoming," she said, her voice soft as a spring breeze. "May, I'm so happy to see you again," I exclaimed, getting up and hugging her. "Your words and teachings have been a light in my life." She stepped back slightly, looking into my eyes with an intensity that made me feel as if I were being read from the inside out. "Sometimes life leads us down unexpected paths, doesn't it?" she began, sitting down beside me. "But tell me, what have you learned so far?" I took a deep breath, organizing my thoughts. I learned that true wealth isn't in possessions, but in the experiences and lessons life offers us. Helping others and seeing the joy on their faces gave me a sense of purpose I hadn't known before. She nodded, satisfied. Exactly, Li Wei. Happiness is a state of mind, something we cultivate within ourselves. The wisdom we gain throughout life is the true fortune we can share with others. May then began to share stories from her youth, moments when she too had faced difficulties and challenges. Each tale was filled with valuable lessons, and I felt privileged to hear her wisdom. There was a time when I lost everything I loved, just like you, she told, her eyes shining with nostalgia. But it was in that desperation that I discovered the strength that resides within me. I learned that even in adversity, there is always a spark of hope. How did you do that? I asked, intrigued. How did you find that strength? She smiled, as if sharing a secret. I learned to listen to my inner voice, to trust myself. Meditation helped me find clarity amidst the chaos. And more importantly, I realized that everyone who crossed my path had something to teach me. Those words resonated deeply within me. The idea that every encounter is an opportunity for learning was something I had been noticing in my own journey, especially with Xiao and the villagers. May, you inspire me to continue this quest. I want to help others find their strength and express their truth, I confessed, feeling a wave of determination wash over me. She looked at me with pride. And you are already doing it, my dear. Your generosity and willingness to help are an example for everyone. Keep sowing those seeds of love and compassion, and you will see how life flourishes around you. In that moment, I understood that my journey was just beginning. The lessons I had learned so far were only the start of a deeper and more meaningful path. With May by my side, I felt ready to face any challenge and discover the true wealth that life had to offer. So we stood up and began to walk together through the village, sharing stories and teachings as the sun set on the horizon, painting the sky with vibrant colors. I was willing to listen, learn, and above all, to live with an open heart. The sun began to set, casting a golden mantle over the village. People gathered in the central square, where laughter and music filled the air. It was the harvest festival, a moment of celebration and gratitude. I felt my heart vibrate with the joy that emanated from that crowd. The smell of delicious dishes and the vibrant colors of the lanterns surrounded me, and I couldn't help but feel grateful to be there, surrounded by those who, even after the storm, found the strength to rebuild their lives. Li Wei, come, come, Chen called to me, waving enthusiastically. He was surrounded by children who laughed and danced to the sound of traditional music. I smiled at seeing him so animated and approached him. You won't believe how much food they've made, and the dance, everyone is excited for the performance, Chen exclaimed, his eyes shining with the anticipation of the night. It's truly wonderful to see everyone together like this, I replied, admiring the community spirit that had blossomed after our efforts to rebuild the village. I feel like we're coming together more each day. Your generosity brought everyone back, Li Wei. You are an inspiration to us, he said, placing his hand on my shoulder. I looked at him, surprised by his words, but also filled with a deep sense of humility. The music started playing louder, and soon everyone gathered to dance. As I moved with the crowd, I remembered May and her lessons. Life was a cycle, and those moments of joy were as valuable as any material wealth I had ever possessed. I immersed myself in the dance, laughing and sharing smiles, feeling part of something bigger. After a while, the dance ended, and everyone gathered around a large table covered with dishes of food. The generosity of the village reflected what it had become, not just a place of survival, but a home filled with love and friendship. I looked around, and my heart swelled with joy. What seemed to have been lost was, in fact, being reborn into something more beautiful. Li Wei, look at this, Chen shouted. and I turned to see him running toward a group of young people. They were admiring a colorful painting that seemed to shine under the lantern light. It was the work of Xiao, capturing the essence of the village with its vibrant beauty. "Xiao, your painting is incredible," I exclaimed as I approached. The young artist smiled shyly, a blush on his cheeks. "Thank you, Li Wei. I wanted to show the joy that we all feel now," he said, his eyes shining with pride. "You really captured that." "It's a masterpiece," I affirmed, and Xiao seemed even more encouraged. At that moment, a merchant passing through the village approached, his rich garments and calculating gaze making him stand out. "This painting is worth a small fortune, young man. I can offer you an amount that would change your life," he said, eyeing Xiao with a shrewd smile. The joy that had once illuminated Xiao's face began to fade. "But I don't know," he murmured, looking at me for support. I want people to see the painting." "Xiao," I began, taking a moment to reflect. "This painting is not just a piece of art. It is a piece of your soul, a symbol of what we have lived together. Its value goes beyond money." "But Li Wei, I could help my family with this," he replied, his voice hesitant. The internal struggle he faced was palpable, and I felt the pressure of the decision he needed to make. "I understand, and it is important to take care of your family," I replied, placing my hand on his shoulder. "But think carefully. By selling your art, you might lose the opportunity to inspire others. What you created here is unique. It can touch the lives of many and bring them back to hope. Sometimes, the value of something isn't in how much we can gain from it, but in how it can make others feel." Zhao looked at the merchant and then at his painting, his expression confused. I want people to see the beauty we found together. I don't want it to be lost." "Then don't sell it, young artist," I said firmly. "Use your art to inspire. That is the true legacy you can leave." The merchant, realizing he could not convince him, frowned. "You might regret this, kid. Money's a security, and that painting, well, you might not get another chance." Xiao took a deep breath and a new determination emerged in his eyes. "No, I won't sell. I want everyone to see what we can do together. I want my art to show the life we have here, not what we can gain from it." I applauded, and soon other villagers began to gather, admiring the painting and expressing their support. Xiao's happiness spread through the crowd, and I knew his decision was right. The true treasure was not in the amount he could receive, but in the impact his art could have. As the night went on, the celebration continued, and the vibrant joy of the village enveloped us all. I danced and laughed, my heart light. The wealth I had always sought became clear before me. It wasn't the material goods that made me happy, but the connections we formed, the lives we touched, and the experiences we shared. So, as I watched Xiao mingle again with the crowd, sharing his art and inspiration, I realized that true abundance was in every smile, in every word of encouragement, and in every act of kindness. Life, with all its twists and turns, taught us that generosity and love are the keys that open the doors to lasting happiness. That night, under the starry sky, I understood that the journey that had begun in loss had led me to a place of inner wealth, a place where each of us has the power to impact one another's lives. And so, with a heart full of gratitude, we danced and celebrated, knowing that together we were truly rich. The festival had ended, but the colors and spirit of celebration still danced in the air. I felt a lightness in my heart as I walked toward May's cave, determined to express my gratitude for all she had taught me. The lessons I received from her were not just words. They were seeds that had sprouted in my soul, blooming into a new perspective on life. Upon arriving, however, a strange feeling of emptiness enveloped me. The cave was silent and deserted. May was always there, ready to welcome anyone who crossed her path, but today it seemed she had departed. I looked around, my eyes crossing the familiar contours of the rock and the vegetation surrounding the place, but nothing prepared me for her absence. A deep sadness settled in my chest. "May," I called, but the only response I received was the echo of my own voice, dissipating in the gentle breeze that passed through. My feet led me to the entrance of the cave, where an unusual glimmer caught my eye. Curious, I approached and saw a small wooden box, adorned with delicate carvings of flowers and birds. My heart raced at the thought that it might be a gift from her, a final message to be uncovered. With trembling hands, I opened the box and found several letters, each tied with a red silk thread. The smell of the paper was sweet and earthy, and I could feel that those words carried the weight of immense wisdom. I picked up the first letter and carefully untied the thread. "Dear Li Wei," the letter began, "if you are reading this, it means my journey in this world has come to an end, but our connection will never be lost. Life is a cycle, and a part of me will always be with you." I felt a lump in my throat. It was as if May was speaking directly to me, as if her presence was still there, even if I couldn't see her. I continued reading. "Always remember that true wealth is not in possessions, but in the love we cultivate in our hearts. Throughout life, you will encounter challenges and losses, but each one brings with it an opportunity for growth. What you do with that pain is what shapes your true essence." A tear rolled down my face as I absorbed her words. May had become a fundamental part of my life, and now, even in her absence, she continued to guide me. In that letter, I found the strength to move forward. "If you ever feel lost," she continued, "remember to look within yourself. The peace and happiness you seek are rooted in your own essence. Connect with others, share your stories, and you will see how life becomes richer and more meaningful." I read more letters, each filled with teachings, reflections, and stories about her own life. I was enveloped by a wave of gratitude. May had not only helped me find my way, but also shown me that true abundance lies in the connection with others and in the compassion we cultivate. After reading the last letter, a feeling of clarity washed over me. It was as if a veil had been lifted, revealing a truth that had always been around me. What I had lost, my home, my fortune, was nothing compared to the value of the relationships I had built along my journey. I had found a new family among the villagers, and that was priceless. I decided to return to the village, May's teachings pulsating in my heart. As I walked, I began to notice every little detail around me. The flowers blooming along the path, the birds singing, and the smile of a child running by. Life was vibrant, and I was finally ready to embrace it. Upon arriving in the village, I saw Chen sitting on a log near the central square, chatting animatedly with some villagers. He spotted me and raised his hand, waving enthusiastically. "Li Wei, you're back," he exclaimed, running towards me. I was worried. "Where have you been?" "I went to visit May," I replied as a smile lit up my face. "She left me some messages. I learned so much. True wealth was within me all along." Chen looked at me with curiosity. "Messages? What did she say?" "She talked about love, compassion, and the importance of connecting with others. I was so absorbed that I realized I don't need material possessions to be happy," I explained, feeling a wave of joy as I shared this with my friend. "This is incredible, Li Wei. You have always been a source of inspiration for all of us," he said, lightly patting my shoulder. "The village has missed you, and everyone is eager to hear what you have to say." Motivated by his words, I gathered the villagers in the central square. Looking at those familiar faces brought warmth to my heart. One by one, they all came, and soon the square was filled with people I considered my family. "Dear friends," I began, my voice firm and clear, "today I want to share something I have learned. May, the wise woman who welcomed me, taught me that true wealth is not in what we own, but in the love and compassion we cultivate. Each of you is a vital part of my life, and that is what truly enriches me. Many eyes lit up, and a murmur of agreement swept through the crowd. Together we can build something even more beautiful. Let's help each other, share our stories, and support those in need. Every act of kindness is a seed we plant, and together we can make our village bloom. Hearing the supportive words, I felt a wave of hope and renewal. Life was full of possibilities, and now, with an open heart, I was ready to embrace this new chapter. May had left her mark on me, and I was determined to pass on her lessons. With a grateful smile, I looked up at the blue sky and thanked life for all it had taught me. True abundance lies in the connections we cultivate, and I was ready to live this truth every day. Now let's take a moment to reflect. Throughout our lives, we face storms that sometimes make us feel lost and aimless. However, these difficulties can reveal the true wealth that has always been within us: love, compassion, and connection with others. Even when everything seems to fall apart, it is possible to find an inner strength that allows us to be reborn stronger and with a new purpose. Leave your thoughts in the comments about this story and what important lesson you learned. Subscribe to the channel to continue following these reflections, and remember, your true wealth is in your heart. Until the next video, or better yet, watch our upcoming videos. You will be surprised by other beautiful and deep stories.